This is not a warning, and it isn't an announcement. It's a recognition. Before you scrolled here, something inside you hesitated. Not curiosity, not emotion. A brief interruption, the kind that happens when attention slips out of habit for just a second. That pause matters. It wasn't the algorithm. It wasn't coincidence. It was a break in momentum, a small opening in the loop you've been running. Most people never notice those openings. They keep moving. They scroll past. They stay inside motion because motion feels safe. You didn't, and that already tells me where you are. December 24, 11:11 p.m. is not important because of numbers, astrology, or belief. And it isn't important because something dramatic is about to happen. It's marked because of timing pressure. The kind that appears only when something has already been decided beneath awareness. We are also standing at the edge of a year closing. Only a few days remain before 2025 begins. Not as a countdown, but as a natural boundary where momentum settles. Notice your breathing for a moment. Not deeper, not slower. Just notice where it naturally sits. Moments like this arrive quietly. They don't push. They don't convince. They show up as a narrowing. Fewer distractions land. Fewer explanations work. Fewer delays feel neutral. That narrowing is already happening. Most people think alignment windows are about doing something before time runs out. That's incorrect. This is a lock-in window, not a chance window. A chance window asks for effort. A lock-in window confirms direction. By December 24, 11:11 p.m., as the year itself prepares to close, certain internal trajectories finalize. Not events, not outcomes, but orientation. Once that sets, reality doesn't argue. It simply organizes around what's already fixed. This is the first irreversibility point, and I'll say it plainly. Once. What stabilizes after this moment does not require effort to continue, and what fails to stabilize cannot be forced back later. Notice your jaw right now. Is it holding or resting? The body recognizes thresholds before the mind accepts them. This time isn't marked because something big will happen. It's marked because nothing dramatic needs to happen anymore. Every major timeline shift is preceded by a quiet phase, where urgency fades, not because nothing matters, but because the decision phase is ending. That's what this is. You're not here to prepare for the next year. You're here because preparation has already reached its limit. If this moment were irrelevant, you wouldn't be listening this long without distraction. That's not motivation. That's signal clarity. Pay attention to your shoulders. Let them be exactly as they are. People don't miss lock-in windows by ignoring signs. They miss them by continuing to search for more information, more certainty, more permission. But certainty does not arrive before alignment. It appears after alignment as confirmation. December 24, 11:11 p.m. is not an opening ceremony. It's a closure timestamp, arriving just before the year turns. After it passes, movement continues, but the range of movement narrows. The system becomes efficient. Old loops stop responding. This isn't punishment, it's coherence. Notice the center of your chest. Not emotion, just pressure or space. That's where this window registers. Nothing needs to be added right now. Nothing needs to be removed. This part is only about recognition. In the next part, I'll show you the pattern that always appears right before a lock-in like this, and how to tell, without guessing, whether you're already inside it. Stay exactly where you are, because what comes next isn't information. It's pattern recognition. Every lock-in window is preceded by the same sequence. It doesn't change across people, years, or circumstances, not because it's mystical, but because systems behave the same way right before they stabilize. The first thing that happens is noise loses its effect. Things that once held your attention don't land the same way anymore. Advice feels repetitive. Motivation sounds loud but thin, not annoying, just unnecessary. Notice that difference. If this were resistance, you'd feel tension. If this were boredom, you'd seek stimulation. But instead, you're more selective without trying to be. That's the pattern beginning. Notice your breathing again. Still natural, still unforced. The second thing that happens is delay stops feeling neutral. Before a lock-in window, waiting feels fine. You can postpone. You can say later without friction. Inside the window, delay doesn't hurt. It just feels inaccurate, like wearing shoes that still fit but no longer feel right. This is where many people misinterpret what's happening. They think they're becoming impatient, They think something is wrong, but impatience has urgency. This doesn't. This feels quieter than urgency, more precise. Pay attention to your shoulders right now. Are they subtly higher than usual or already settling? That's not stress leaving. That's excess effort dropping out of the system. The third thing that happens is the body updates before the story does. Your posture shifts. Your tolerance for unnecessary explanations lowers. You stop rehearsing futures that require convincing yourself. Not because you decided to stop, because the system no longer supports it. This is critical. Right before a lock-in, imagination loses priority. And orientation takes over. You're not visualizing outcomes. You're noticing alignment. And that's why this phase feels strange to people who expect signs. Because the sign isn't excitement. It's absence. Absence of chasing. Absence of overthinking. Absence of emotional negotiation. Notice your jaw again. Has it softened since earlier? That's not relaxation. That's coherence. If this were a chance window, you'd feel pressure to act. If this were a warning, you'd feel fear. But you don't. You feel narrower, cleaner, less available for distraction. That narrowing isn't loss. It's commitment, forming beneath language. This is why December 24, 11:11 p.m. matters. Not because it creates this pattern, but because it finalizes it. By that moment, just before the year turns, the internal direction either completes its shift or remains unfinished, not punished, not judged, just incomplete. And incomplete systems don't stabilize. They keep looping. People who miss lock-in windows don't miss them by ignoring signs. They miss them by continuing to search for clarity, instead of noticing orientation. Clarity comes later. Alignment comes first. Notice the center of your chest, not emotion, just pressure or space. That's where orientation registers. If what you're hearing feels familiar without feeling convincing, that's confirmation, not confusion. In the next few minutes, we'll narrow this even further into how to tell, without belief or interpretation, whether you're already inside the window or still standing just outside its edge. Don't adjust anything. Just stay present, because this part isn't about deciding whether you're inside the window. It's about noticing whether you already are. If you were outside it, this wouldn't land at all. You'd feel restless. You'd look for something more dramatic. You'd want proof. Instead, you're still here. That's the first sign. People inside a lock-in window don't feel pulled forward. They feel held. Notice that difference. There's less urgency to change everything, and less tolerance for pretending nothing is changing. That combination only appears here. Now notice your breathing again. Still unchanged. Still natural. Inside the window, the body stops asking for intensity. It starts asking for accuracy. The second sign is subtle but unmistakable. Your reactions have slowed, not because you're calmer, but because fewer things qualify as relevant. Situations still happen. People still talk. Information still arrives. But something filters automatically. You don't argue as much internally. You don't rehearse responses you'll never use. You don't imagine multiple futures at once. The system has begun choosing one direction. Pay attention to your jaw. Is it less engaged than usual? That disengagement isn't surrender. It's excess effort being removed. The third sign is this. You feel less interested in becoming someone, and more unwilling to continue being who you were. That's important. Before a lock-in, growth feels aspirational. Inside it, growth feels unnecessary, because the old structure has already lost authority. You're not chasing a better version. You're standing in a narrower range of motion, where certain behaviors simply don't arise. Notice your shoulders. Are they dropping without instruction? That's not relaxation. That's alignment without performance. Here's something most people misunderstand. Inside this window, doubt doesn't disappear. It just loses momentum. It doesn't spiral. It doesn't persuade. It passes through like background noise. If doubt were in charge, you wouldn't be listening this steadily. The fourth sign is the most diagnostic. Time feels different. Not faster, not slower, but more decided. You're less patient with delays that don't serve orientation. Not irritated, just uninterested. This is where people outside the window get confused. They think they need a push. They think they need motivation. They think something is missing. But nothing is missing. What's happening is that optionality is collapsing. Not dramatically, quietly. And that's why December 24, 11:11 p.m. matters. Because once optionality collapses, the system doesn't reopen it. After that moment, especially as the year turns, Movement continues, but only along the direction that's already coherent. Notice the center of your chest again. Not emotion, just presence. You don't need confirmation beyond that. In the next few seconds, we'll address the hardest piece. What cannot cross this point with you, no matter how much history or effort is attached to it. If you're still here and undistracted when that begins, comment one thing only: still present. Not as affirmation, as location. Then stay exactly where you are, because once this part begins, the window narrows further, not in time, but in tolerance. What cannot cross this point doesn't leave with drama. It doesn't announce itself. It simply stops responding. That's how you recognize it. Notice how certain habits already feel neutral instead of comforting. Not wrong, not painful, just inactive. That's not discipline. That's incompatibility. Lock-in windows don't ask you to let go. They reveal what no longer follows. Pay attention to your breathing again. Still unchanged. If effort were required here, your body would already be preparing. It isn't. That tells you something. What cannot cross this point usually falls into three categories: identities built for survival, relationships maintained by momentum, patterns justified by history, not because they're bad, because they were calibrated for a different phase. Notice your jaw. If there's slight tension there, it's not resistance. It's recognition encountering attachment. The hardest part of this phase is not loss, it's clarity without negotiation. Because once clarity arrives, you can't unknow what no longer fits. This is why pressure increases here. Not external pressure, internal narrowing. You may notice fewer conversations feel necessary. Fewer explanations feel worth finishing. Fewer compromises feel neutral. That's not withdrawal. That's orientation asserting itself. Here's the irreversibility most people misunderstand. You don't carry the old self forward. You outgrow the conditions that kept it relevant. And once relevance is gone, effort cannot revive it. Notice your shoulders again. Are they slightly heavier or slightly freer? Both are acceptable. Both mean the same thing. This phase doesn't demand action. It demands honesty without drama. Some things will try to follow you past this point. By appealing to memory, obligation, or identity, they won't succeed. Not because you reject them, but because the system stops allocating energy to them. This is why forcing closure doesn't work here. What exits does so quietly, and what remains doesn't need justification. If you're still listening without mentally arguing, that's confirmation. If you're still here without distraction, that's location. So before we move forward, mark it not emotionally, but structurally. If you're still present and undistracted, comment only this: still present. Not as commitment, as orientation. In the next part, we'll clarify what actually locks after this moment. Not events, not outcomes, but the patterns that continue without effort once this window closes. Stay with the stillness you're already in, because what locks after this moment is subtle enough to be missed and permanent enough to shape everything that follows. It isn't events, it isn't outcomes, it isn't circumstances. Those come later. What locks now are patterns of movement, the way you decide without deliberation, the way you pause instead of react, the way certain choices no longer feel available, even if they remain possible. Notice your breathing again. Not its speed, its consistency. That's the signal. After a lock-in window closes, life doesn't become louder. It becomes efficient. You stop revisiting the same internal debates. You stop negotiating with familiar doubts. You stop rehearsing explanations for choices you already know you'll make. This isn't confidence. It's settled orientation. The field responds to what no longer wavers. That's why effort disappears here. Effort exists only when direction is unstable. Once direction stabilizes, movement happens without commentary. Pay attention to the center of your chest. Not emotion, just whether there is space or pressure. That's where pattern lock registers. After this moment, certain things continue automatically. Self-trust without justification, follow-through without motivation, distance from what once demanded energy. Not because you're disciplined, because coherence removes friction. This is where people misinterpret what's happening. They think they've lost interest. They think they're detached. They think something is missing. Nothing is missing. What's gone is oscillation. And without oscillation, The field doesn't scatter, it organizes. Notice your jaw again. If it's relaxed now, that's confirmation. If it's holding, that's the last place habit still checks for permission. Either way, the lock continues. This is why trying to go back later doesn't work. Not because you're blocked, but because the internal pattern that supported the old route no longer initializes. You can revisit the memory. You can revisit the location. You can revisit the people, but the movement won't activate. That's what locking means. After this window, progress doesn't require belief. It requires presence, and presence is already happening. If you're listening and not trying to extract instructions, you're already aligned with what stabilizes here. No techniques are needed. No affirmations apply. The system is already conserving energy by removing paths that no longer match. That's why things feel quieter, not empty. Clear. In the next part, I'll show you how to stand correctly inside this window, not by doing more, but by avoiding the one mistake that reintroduces noise right before stabilization completes. Nothing new needs to be added here. That's the first thing to understand. This phase isn't about improvement. It's about not interfering with what's already stabilizing. Most people disrupt alignment at this point without realizing it, not through action, but through unnecessary correction. They sense the quiet and mistake it for stagnation, so they reach. Notice your shoulders, not to drop them. Just notice whether they're holding position or drifting on their own. That tells you everything. Standing correctly inside this window means allowing orientation to complete, without commentary, no checking, no measuring, no mental rehearsal of outcomes. Those behaviors belong to earlier phases, when direction wasn't yet fixed. Here, observation replaces effort. If something feels obvious, you don't question it. If something feels unnecessary, you don't explain it. If something fades, you don't pull it back for closure. Pay attention to your breathing again, not its depth. The pause between breaths. That pause is coherence. This is where people try to lock it in consciously. That never works. Locking happens when you stop referencing the past as a comparison point and stop referencing the future as a requirement. You don't need to hold a state. You need to stop abandoning it. Notice the back of your neck. Is there tension from monitoring yourself? If so, that's the last habit of effort, checking for relevance. It's safe to let that go. Standing correctly doesn't mean being still externally. Life continues. It means internal movements stop arguing with direction. You respond, but you don't oscillate. You decide, but you don't justify. You move, but you don't rush. That's the posture. And once it's taken, it doesn't collapse, because it isn't constructed. It's remembered. People often expect a feeling here. There may be none, or there may be a subtle neutrality that feels unfamiliar simply because it isn't dramatic. That neutrality is not absence. It's balance. Notice the center of your chest again. Space tends to replace pressure here when alignment is allowed to finish. If it hasn't yet, that's fine. Standing correctly doesn't require success signals. It requires non-interference. The more ordinary this feels, the more accurate it is. This window doesn't reward intensity. It responds to consistency. And consistency is already present. When you stop trying to manage the process. In the final part, I'll guide you through stabilization, not as a peak, not as an activation surge, but as a quiet confirmation that the timeline has accepted you because you stopped asking it to. Stay here, do not scroll. At this point, nothing needs to change. That's not a suggestion. That's the signal. Stabilization doesn't arrive as a feeling. It arrives as the absence of correction. You stop adjusting yourself. You stop scanning for confirmation. You stop asking whether you're doing it right. Notice your breath one last time. Not the inhale, not the exhale, the still point between them. That still point is where timelines anchor. What locks here does not lock because you intend it to. It locks because you stop interfering. This is how stabilization works. Not by force, not by repetition, not by belief, but by non-contradiction. Your thoughts no longer pull one way, while your body pulls another. Your attention no longer jumps ahead to outcomes. Your nervous system no longer waits for permission. Everything aligns by subtraction. Notice your jaw again, resting or holding. If it's resting, The system is already accepting the new orientation. If it's holding, don't fix it. Just allow it to release on its own. That release is the activation. So now, without effort, repeat this quietly, not out loud, not emotionally, just internally, is greater than I stop resisting what is already set. I allow coherence to finish. What aligns stays. What doesn't fades. No visualization, no expectation, just recognition. This moment sits on December 24, a day already heavy with transition, reflection, and pause for many people. Not celebration yet, not closure yet, a threshold day. That matters, because thresholds don't ask for celebration. They ask for presence. And you've stayed present. If you're still here now undistracted, comment, still present. Not as engagement, as confirmation. What stabilizes after this doesn't need daily motivation. It carries itself. And what doesn't stabilize cannot be dragged into the next cycle, no matter how much effort is applied later. That's not loss. That's precision. In the next video, I won't explain anything new. I'll ask a question instead, one that only makes sense after this point. You'll know whether it's for you the moment you hear it. Until then, don't rush forward. Let the system complete what it's already doing. If you feel called to go deeper, not urgently, not emotionally, I'll be opening a quiet session soon for those who recognize this phase and want guidance through stabilization. No hype, no promises, just alignment. If you want that, comment yes. And if this transmission helped you stay coherent, like the video, subscribe, and share it with someone who doesn't need convincing, only recognition. Stay exactly where you are. The timeline has already registered you.